the conversation is ongoing, feel free to ask. And feel free to stop me, to clarify, or to give more context. Okay. And our time starts now. All right, so today we're going to dive into what we call the usage of props. Now, every conversation, and of course we're going to show some examples on how this plays out both on one-on-one conversations, as well as in a meeting, in a pitch, as well as in a speech that you're giving to a lot of people. Now, it's a basic foundation in public speaking and communication. But now we're going to define it. I like to say this, like a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a prop is worth 1,000 pictures, or 1,000 pictures. I can show you one item, and the things that will come to your mind are different things from one item. And excuse me. So this is based onto the fact that a prop, as it were, a prop, by definition, is an object, a physical object, which you then use to engage the audience, number one. Number two, to explain something complex, you use a prop. I remember when we were in primary school, those days ago, I don't know if they still do that now, they'll ask us to bring sticks, maybe like 10 sticks cut and well bound together, and they would use that for when you're doing your subtraction, additions, and whatnot. In fact, to some extent, there used to be what was called abacus. I don't know what they used to call it in other schools. It would be some sticks, and then there's some round things which you move and say 2 minus 1, then you move, and then you get equal to that particular answer. Those were what they call learning aids, like things that you can see. And you use those things to then learn the complicated mathematics around subtraction and addition. At our level, that was complicated in terms of subtraction, 2 minus what minus what. But the teachers at that time, they needed to use something physical which we can see to use to explain the complicatedness of the mathematics behind that. And examples of those props would include things like posters. This thing that I'm showing right now is an example of a prop, a slide. This is a prop. So a slide should not have all the information that you want to talk about. A slide should just have a piece of what you want to talk about, and then the rest of the explanation, remember what we talked about in the last session, has to be coming from the head. But I've gone to many meetings, I'll tell you that for free, where you have one person speaking, and from the beginning of the page all the way up to the end, there are words, bullet point, and they're trying now to explain all that by even going through reading every point. It just becomes boring, and it shows that you did not prepare for this particular conversation. But if you've watched people speak like Steve Jobs, sometimes you'll have one slide and just a picture, and then you'll explain what the picture is. Or you will have a slide with just a few words, and then you'll explain what those is, or what that is. It is said that at least every slide should have, at least, of course in certain circumstances, 5 sentences. So that's like 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is enough. The rest has to come from your head. Because the cloudier the slides are, the boring it is for the audience that are seated there, that have to endure you going through every bullet point. So a slide is part of the example. Charts are part of the examples. Objects are part of the examples. Costumes, and I'll be able to show you some of those, are part of the examples. Accessories are part of the examples. Last week, I had a meeting with the Speakers Association of Southern Africa, from South Africa, and we were talking about some of those things in terms of what are some of those our regrettable moments as speakers that we can look back at, laugh at and share and just get an insight. So for me, I shared something. When I went to compete in Zimbabwe for the speech contest, because the nature of our competition is you don't prepare for the speech, They'll call you to the stage and they'll give you a statement and you make a speech right there on the stage. And the speech should be 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So I had prepared in advance. I put a watch in the pocket of my jacket to say that whatever question they're going to ask me, I'm going to find a way of removing the watch and throw it down. And it so happened that the question I was given, or the statement that we were all given, was a very friendly statement. And the statement was, this time next year. It was a great opportunity for me to speak, and then bring out my words and then throw it down, make it dramatic and make a point. But I didn't. Because I forgot. Because there were so many people, and it was my first time in Zimbabwe contesting, and we only had about a few Zambians in the meeting that had managed to go there. But the rest of the audience were people from Zimbabwe. So whenever their person was speaking, there was more, like it's like playing in your home ground. There's more like, at Anfield, like what happened over the weekend. Yeah? There's a lot of support compared to a few voices from Zambia. So in the mix of that, I forgot to remove the watch and throw it. And I think as we go on, I'll be able to play that clip. So someone in the audience was gracious enough to take a clip of me speaking, but I forgot to take my watch and throw it down as a prop, as an accessory. I had already put it in my pocket, prepared to throw it down, and I'll show you why I wanted to throw it down. Now, I ended up coming second in that particular speech contest. And one of the reasons why I lost was because I didn't use any prop. But I had it in my pocket. I just didn't throw it. So, props ultimately then become a key element when you are speaking anywhere. You're making a pitch, you're speaking to your babes, you are talking to a crowd, props become a very key element. But now the question is, when do you use them? What justifies the fact that you need to use a prop? Number one, when you want to explain a complex issue, don't just speak without showing what you're trying to say. In fact, some of you speak to people that whenever they want to talk to you, they'll tell you, let's come on my desk, and then they'll start drawing on a piece of paper. So what I'm trying to show is that's a prop they're using to help to explain a complex situation. If you're going to pitch a product to a client that is not a widely known product, you may want to go with a slide, or you want to go with some slides. The slides will show some histograms, it will show some charts, it will show some statistics in terms of some of the things that you've been able to do. That will help the client make an informed decision. It's the same thing that you could have explained to them without using anything to show for it. But when you use a prop, it helps even the most complex issues to be well explained. And I think I gave an example earlier on, I think the first or second session, when COVID-19 just hit. You saw some of the pictures they started sharing, like the picture of how the coronavirus looks. Some round ball with some color things. And that like sort of put an impression on the people in terms of how serious could this particular coronavirus thing is. And as a result, it helped for many people to understand, oh, this thing is actually that serious, because they used a physical object, videos and pictures. Some of these pictures are still there when you go to hospitals. When you just look at the picture itself, even if you did not place a certain premium on how fearful you were about COVID-19, when you just see the picture, you start scaring for yourself. So when you want to explain something complex, you use a prop. Number two, when you want to create a memorable message, you use a prop. Here's a typical example. About 3 months ago, I was speaking at church, and the theme of the message I was speaking on was life is more than bread and butter. What I wanted to bring out from that particular message is that there is more to life than just going to work, working hard, and being able to afford bread and butter. There's nothing wrong with working hard, there's nothing wrong with going to work, but there's more to life than just those things. You can't just say, the only thing that matters to me is work, make money, and buy bread and butter, buy the Mercedes-Benz, buy the Land Cruiser, buy the dream car, the Volvo, or if you would want to go to what is now scary, avoided, the Jaguar. There's more to life than that. So what did I do to capture and to create a memorable message? So I knew I was going to be speaking. They had told me I was on the program, I was the preacher of the day. I prepared bread and butter from home. So I got 2 slices, I put butter, put them together and cut, that famous triangular shape. And then I put them in a foil paper. I went to speak. So I went to the stage when I was introduced. Okay, our speaker for today is Brother Olimonga, and he's going to be speaking on the topic, life is more than bread and butter. So I stood. So I had it already put, I had it close it to my Bible. So like you couldn't, if you are not nearby, you can't see that there's something in between the Bible and the notebook which I was using. So when I got to the stage, I didn't immediately start talking. So I put my Bible on the stage, and then I started ripping apart the foil paper, and then I got the slice of bread, I took a bite, I chewed, and then I looked on my right, there was a bottle of water. I took a bottle of water and drank the water. And then I put the bottle of water down, I put the remaining, of course I didn't eat all of it, and then I put the other slice down. And then I said, growing up, you see, I didn't even make reference to the bread immediately. I said, growing up, we used to work hard so that we can afford bread and butter. Right now, every day we go to work so that we can continue to afford bread and butter. And then I said, but a week ago, I was watching a clip on YouTube, and there was this doctor who was saying white bread and butter is bad for my health. Imagine how I must have felt after working hard all these years to afford these things. But you know what? In that moment, I learned that life is more than bread and butter. I made my point. And then I started talking and going on, and that message was memorable in the minds of the people. The examples that I was giving, the fact that I actually showed an actual bread, a sliced bread with butter, that was memorable on the minds of those that were listening to that particular sermon. So you would want to create that impression. If you are going to pitch to a client, imagine there are a lot of other people that do the kind of work that you do. What will make them remember what you say? For example, the time that I used to work at Cellulant, some of you may, I'm sure know Cellulant, or you know the product called Tea. So we used to be the ones who go to clients to go and sell. And you find that this client tells you, oh, Kazan was here actually. But then let's hear from you. What difference can you bring to our business? And then you have to make a pitch to be different and to make the client remember what you say. Sometimes you find that you're asking them like what Kazan does. They're not able to remember some of the things. But then when you're making your presentation, sometimes you'll be like, have you ever gone to a filling station and you want to pay, you've forgotten your ATM card, but you have your phone and you have mobile money? How did that feel? And they're like, it was inconveniencing. They had to tell me to go and withdraw and come back. And I didn't like that. And then we tell them, but you know what? With Ting, you can actually pay using mobile money. Here's an example. You tell them, can you type this on your phone? That's a pro. So they'll type something on their phone because we had codes in our heads. So we tell them, type this, enter this amount, a test of 1 would you mind to use the 1 from your mobile money? Like, yeah, it's okay. And then you tell them, press this, and then they see how convenient it is. And they're like, wow, this is so easy. Where do I need to sign? And right there, first meeting, they sign. I remember there's a time I closed a deal in Livingstone worth $6 million. In one meeting, the meeting was 1 hour long, explaining, justifying what we do. And within that particular same day, we signed that deal, $6 million. Why? Because I asked them to practically do what I was talking about and use that as a prop. I had my phone, I had the slides, so I was showing the slides and telling them, can you do this, can you do that, can you do that? And within that 1 hour, we signed that deal and proceeded. I was memorable to them because I asked them to participate in the conversation. And one of those ways I used was to ask them to do with their phones the transaction that I was showing on the screen. So when you want to be memorable as a communicator, use props. Number 3, when you're introducing a new product on the market, you don't just want to speak without showing the people what that product is. So you want to use a prop. So here's a typical example. BlackBerry was the thing then. If you did not have in fact, let me start from if you had a BlackBerry in those days, oh, you are the rich. Because it was not an easy gadget to afford. You would have things like BBM. Like, in those days, if someone, like, one of those ways to discriminate against the haves and the have-nots was to ask, do you have BBM? And then I don't know how much that, if I still remember, was that a 10 kwacha or 7 kwacha? Like, you have like 1 week for free, you're just using internet for free. Yes, subscription. The BBM. It was not a touch screen, it was a button phone, if I may call it that. But then, someone came onto the market and said, you know what? You don't need all these buttons. We can create a phone that you just need to press on the screen itself. You have a much bigger screen and you enjoy viewing movies and whatever it is that you do on the internet. How they did that, they had to show a big screen showing that particular phone and introducing a new product on the market. It is said that these companies, they actually tried to partner with BlackBerry. So you can use part of your, like, the influence that you already have so that we do this. BlackBerry is like, no, if you don't have a BlackBerry, then you are poor. Okay, that's okay. Until someone introduced a new product, a touchscreen phone, and they showed that on the screen when they're doing a presentation, and people were like, wow, this is the thing that we're waiting for. Now it's 2024. Who uses a BlackBerry? In fact, if you use a BlackBerry right now, we'll look at you weird, like, what happened to you? Like who hurt you when you were young? Why? Because that particular launch had to be memorable and it had to capture the audience's attention. If that is too far, for example, when they were advertising the new iPhone 16, did you see the adverts? Did you see how they were specifying the color that it's going to come in? But iPhone sometimes does this like way too much. Many phones already have a button where you can press and you take a picture. But then they say, with this iPhone 16, it has a specific button just for taking pictures. And the way the videos were looking, you'd be like, wow, this is quite innovative. And many people bought and then realized that you could have it in your phone, and because it's very sensitive, it will still be taking pictures while it's in your phone. So many people ultimately then disable it. But they achieved an introduction of a new product using something that visually appeals to people. I talked about the Jaguar advert last time I came here, right? Did I talk about the Volvo advert? No. So we know what happened to Jaguar based off that particular experience, and many people started even taking back cars to Jaguar. Some people even started destroying their Jaguar cars that they had already bought online. And of course that sends bad publicity to the company. About 1 or 2 weeks apart, Volvo released an advert. It was a 3 to 4 minutes long advert. And here's how this advert pictures the power of Volvo. And within that particular week that advert came out, Volvo sold millions of cars. And here's how the advert starts. There's this guy with his wife. They're in the house. And they're talking and whatever it is that they're doing. And then the guy, the wife was pregnant and almost due. Then the guy calls his mother. He was talking to the mother how that, anytime she could give birth, he's imagining how the experience would be. And he says, in fact, I pray that I have a daughter, because I would imagine myself, even when she grows up, maybe giving her away into marriage and all that. And then the wife leaves the house, goes to buy something by the side. The mother, so the video shows the mother is driving. And you put those things on loudspeaker or whatever, like hands-free. So she's driving and she's talking to the son. The wife has gone out, she's going to buy some food or whatever it is that she was buying. The mother is driving, the guy is talking to the phone, he's talking on the phone to the mother, and they're showing what he's thinking and what he's wishing for. A beautiful baby girl being born, him playing around with her, and what. The wife finishes what she's buying, and now she's walking back to the house. And you have like pedestrian crossings. And the wife is walking on the pedestrian crossing. The mother is driving, she's talking on the phone. Somehow she didn't see, like you're engrossed in the conversation, this will be your grandchild and whatnot, and you are engrossed in the conversation, and you forgot to notice that you are approaching the pedestrian crossings. And there was a pregnant woman about to cross the road. And how the Volvo is made is that if you are going to have impact on anything, the car automatically stops. So as she was driving and the woman was crossing, she was going to hit the woman. But because the Volvo has the technology that makes it stop when it's about to hit into something, the car just stopped. That advert got people emotional. In fact, it is alleged that some people cried while watching that advert. Because it was talking about family. And imagine, you are a married man, you're about to have your first child, and someone hits her with the car. I mean, you would want that person dead also. But Volvo tells you that, look, we have a technology that makes sure you don't lose the opportunity of having your first child. Because the car stops. Without you pressing the brakes, it just stops. That's the technology it was made. Millions of cars were sold from that particular advert. And my market guru here would say, an advert is not supposed to last more than 30 seconds. So Volvo already, they broke all the rules of making a good advert because it was longer than 30 seconds. Yet Jaguar had the advert 30 seconds. And because of what they portrayed, a lot of people did what? They hated the company. Now the company is losing even shares in terms of the share value and whatnot, because people are saying, I would not want to be associated with this. They both used props to explain something. One used the prop the right way and it captured the right emotions, while the other captured only the emotions of the minority. And that made a big difference between who was seated to make the idea of the advert for Jaguar and the one who made the idea of the advert for Volvo. So people were buying Volvo because they're saying, oh, so it's so safe that if I'm driving to Livingstone, I don't have to worry about the cars that pass on the road, like it will just stop. Or, you know how sometimes like if you hit someone with your car, like it's a hectic process. You even have to be arrested first. You are detained in the cells and whatnot, and like you don't want to go through that. So you have a car that can stop on its own. I would want that car. But I would want to even argue that maybe even a Jaguar has also that capability, because technology has evolved. But in their advert, they did not highlight that side of it, and as a result, people know that only a Volvo can do that. But they were all using props of a video. So when you're introducing a new product and you use a prop, it catches the attention of the audience. If you're speaking to someone who's never heard about this organization, you will not just verbally explain, oh, okay, so we've been in Zambia for 20 years now, and da-da-da-da-da-da. No. You may want to go with your presentation, you show some pictures. Some organizations will even show pictures of their first office and how that they grew from that first office to the now the new office. Here we are, 20 years down the line, and we still are the market leaders in auditing and da-da-da-da-da. When someone sees that, they buy into the company more than if you were to verbally explain it. And ultimately, when you want to distinguish yourself as from the average speakers, you use a prop. Everyone can speak, but find someone who speaks in a certain way. I'll show you some videos of some very funny guys on how they were trying to speak and distinguish themselves. You will look at it and be like, how did the person think of that? Because communication is also, and we'll come to that, it's also very psychological in terms of how you communicate. Like, you have to think deep before you say something. In fact, it is actually said, like it is on social media or on internet, it says, think before you click. That ensures that you are safe out there. You don't end up clicking a link that ends up hacking your system. In communication, we also say, think before you say, or think before you speak. Because sometimes the things that we think about would break relationships. But you would not say that outright. Like, for example, you can't just walk up to a person and say, I don't like you. Even if you don't like them. If you say that and then later on you say, no, I didn't mean it, I'm not going to believe you. You've already said it. And we are in the Christian nation, some people didn't say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So there's nothing like you didn't mean it. And even if for you actually didn't mean it to come out like that way, but the fact that you said it, that would be the impression that would be printed. So you think before you ultimately speak. Now, how do you then ultimately use these props in conversations? You're talking to one person, you are pitching to a client. Number one, when you want to engage and create some level of clarity in what you're explaining, you use a prop. So props can be used to capture attention and break, the monotony of okay, my name is Harvey. I'm from Pakatili. I am the lead audit or whatever it is that you do here. So we're here to just show you the product that we have and tell us if you like it. I mean, if I'm the client, I'd be like, yeah, but go on. I know your director. He's a friend of mine. But then go on. Let me hear. And then some of these people, they even call your director after you talk to them like, hey, come on, tell your boy to know how to talk to people. But if you know how to use props, for example, you walk in the office and you notice that they have a nice office. Start from there. That's a prop. Wow, you have some nice offices here. This is beautiful. You start from there. If the person is wearing a nice suit, compliment them. Wow, that's a nice suit you're wearing. That is a prop. Right there, you are engaging them, you are capturing their attention. And then you go into like, whoa, like, for example, like the surprise that we all got over the weekend when power was there, like for longer than necessary. That could be a point of conversation. Like it's a prop that you can use to sort of capture the conversation. What do you think the government is trying to do? Are they pushing us to buy units because people are not buying units because there's no power? So now they bring power to come for longer hours so that people now buy units, or like what is going on? By the time you finish discussing that line of thought and like, oh yeah, I'm from Bakatili, we do A, B, C, D, and we're exploring to see how best we could partner with your business in this. Trust me, you get a much better feedback or much better response than if you just went straight on into the conversation. Yes, sir.
Yes. On getting that clarity, I think that's the best way of starting the conversation. But again, there's a temptation. If I say, that's a nice suit, and you give me that positive, like, okay. I think there's a temptation of me trying to say another something again that would make you feel nice. But again, I don't know how that will go.
So here's the modus operandi of a communicator.
Yeah.
Don't oversay things. Have you seen, I think for the ladies, you'll be able to admit to that, like a guy who tells you you are beautiful, but like he oversays it at the end of the day, like what is your issue? Like you've already said that, like, I get it. I mean, many people tell me that. You're not the first one. Duh. But like you oversay, like you've already made your point. So one of the things, like they used to teach us this in communication school, that communication should be like the first thing that you say should be like a mini skit. Not too long to hide everything that you want to say, but not too short again to expose everything. If you say, your suit is nice, and then the person says, thank you, please don't try to find out where they bought it. Don't. Because look, this is like maybe like their finance director, or this is their director, or CEO. Like you don't want to start asking the CEO, where did you buy your suit? The fact that you said your suit is nice, that is enough. That is enough. And remember, you have 3 seconds for them to make judgment. You don't want to for them to start thinking, this guy, is he? And I'm just saying this for the purposes of this conversation. Is he gay or something? I'm not interested in men. Like, why is he over complimenting me? But you have a nice shoe, you have a nice watch. Sometimes even the clients themselves, when you walk in, they'll tell you, oh, that's a nice shirt you are wearing. The clients themselves. Don't start telling them, yeah. Actually, I got this bed at, is it Bogart or Bogmat? There's a new store at East Park. They sell one stretchy shirt at 3,000 kwacha. So when you wear that, definitely someone who has an eye for quality, they'll see it. It's a stretchy shirt, so like it stretches. You don't even have to iron it. I saw the shirt and touched the shirt, and I was like, if I could have one of these, just one, and then the rest I can buy from Salaula, but just one. Like there'll be a difference. And then someone compliments, don't start telling them, no, just got it at 3,000 at this time. No, just say, oh, thank you so much, sir. And then because they've said that, find something you can compliment about them. It's reciprocal. So you say, oh, you have a nice shirt. Oh, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. Oh, that's a nice shoe you're wearing yourself. That's enough. Don't now start oversaying things. Then from there, find an engaging element that can ultimately use to grab their attention. So the fact that you told them, they told you look nice, you told them they look nice too, thank you, you are now at that particular platform. So yeah, tell me about yourself. Then you ultimately, maybe you haven't yet sat down when they told you that. Maybe as you are sitting and you're like, how's the power situation in your area? That's a good way to start. You're not complimenting now, you're just asking, picking their interest to see where their mind is. And maybe they would say things like, wow, but for me, that's not a conversation because I have my own source of power, we've done A, B, C, D. Like, wow, that's great. But imagine, for the average person out there, like, it's tough. Imagine 8 hours without power. That's really, really something. But I hope the government will do something to resolve the issue. My name is so. I'm from Pakistani. I'm here to just walk you through some product offering. That way, it helps them to know that you are informed. Because there are some clients when they're asking you questions, it's not because they doubt your product. No, they just want to know, are you well informed? As a salesperson or a client-facing person, sometimes there's some clients that, and I'm going to say this, and I'm saying this lightly, they're so full of themselves. Even if they call the call center, the way they will be talking to you, you can tell they're driving a Land Cruiser L300. They haven't told you that, but from how they're speaking, you can tell that. Or you can tell that every year they go for holidays to Philippines, or they go to places, in short, from the way they're talking. As a communicator, you should be aware of your intended goal. Why are you talking to them? If they are calling to complain, what is your response to that complaint? It's to resolve the problem. So whatever it is that you're going to use as a pro, whatever it is that you're going to compliment on, it should aid you to resolving the issue. But first, get their attention. Because sometimes you can be talking to people. You're talking to someone. You are the two of you, and they are on their phone. You are the two of you, only two people, you and them, and yet they are on their phone. You can't tell them, sir, put your phone away. Like, chief, you're telling me to put my phone away in my office, then get out of my office. One of those ways you can use to capture their attention is, like we said, you pause. They'll definitely look up. And then, while you have their attention, make your impact. Break the monotony. Sometimes, don't show up like the way everyone else shows up. Like I told you, whenever I'm greeted by someone, I answer, I'm better than yesterday, and how are you? That already breaks the monotony. People like to know, oh, what happened to you yesterday? Like, no, yesterday I was better than the other day. I just keep getting better every day. Like, don't you have bad days? Like, no, I do have bad days. But every bad day or good day is an opportunity for me to learn something. Because history is more than the path that has been left by the past. It can influence the present, and it can shape the future. So every day is an opportunity for me to be better. By me saying that if I'm selling a product, we haven't yet gotten to the product, and if I'm selling a product, already I'm more likely to close the deal than someone who just went on to talk about the deal itself. So find something to catch the people's attention. Number two, psychological impact. Everything that we do, whether be, like for example, the two adverts we're comparing, both of them had the psychological impact on the people. One had the negative impact, the other had the positive impact. Where it is alleged that some people were crying while watching the Volvo advert. Like, why were they crying? They don't even know those people that were acting. That woman wasn't even actually pregnant, maybe. It was those pregnancies that they put in Hollywood. So, why are you crying? The act itself gets some people to think, like it gets them in their, you get the statement like you've got him in his feels, like you just feel a certain kind of way. That's the reason why if you're watching an action movie and the lead actor is shot, you feel a certain way. You don't even know the guy. For example, which team do you support? Manchester, which Manchester? United. For example, if Marcus Rashford misses a penalty, you will feel offended. You don't even know. You don't even know him. He doesn't even know you exist. But the experience of you watching him has created a psychological impact that whatever he does affects you. If they are allegedly, if they say Marcus Rashford was, let's say for example, charged for as a sex offender, whatever it is, so he'll not be playing anymore for Manchester United. You feel offended, even if he did the act, because his experience has impacted something within you, but you don't even know him. So a well-chosen pro can invoke such kind of impact. It builds trust and make conversations feel like it's not just a conversation, but it's a what? It's a dynamic and a personal experience that you're having with the person. Yes, sir.
Okay. So from the first point to the second point, I think the second point is saying a well chosen. So there's a chance of not choosing it well.
Exactly.
So now how do you overcome a point where you a prop that you pick, let's say here, you say, oh actually that's a nice plant, but again, not knowing that the owners of the office they regret having that plant there. Then now you have sort of negative feedback. How do you overcome that? Because what you're trying to do is to activate attention, but again you have done that but in the opposite way.
So, of course, the next slide is going to be talking to us about how you choose a prop. But just to answer your question is, for example, if you don't know that they regret having that plant, but they can give you that feedback, say, actually we regret having that plant. They can give you that feedback.
You have praised it.
Yes, you praised it, but that's an opportunity for you as a communicator to make impact. Because remember what we said, communication is more think before you speak. So someone has just said, we actually regret having that plant. You can actually say, for example, if I'm you, I would say something like, oh, what a pity. There are certain things that could be regretted being had, and yet other people can look at them and say, this is nice. Anyway, it's just, it's the fact of life. Some things will be liked, some things won't be liked. But wow, it was rightly positioned. But nevertheless, my name is, you see, you've created some, even the person who used to regret having it, maybe they might actually start thinking twice about it. Like, maybe after all it's not bad. Because here's an example. There are some men that have landed some good women. And yet people all along they used to laugh at you. Let's say for example your height. To men this is a big deal. Yeah? So you find someone who you wanted didn't want you because of your height. And then you find another person who likes the same height. Which one are you going to be leaning more towards when you are reminiscing about yourself? And where are you going to be leaning? Towards the people that didn't like your height or towards the person who likes your height? Exactly. So the people that didn't like your height doesn't mean they've changed all of a sudden and they like it. No. But the person who likes it cancels all those other people that didn't like it. And that's how sometimes perspectives can be. You can end up giving them a perspective and then they look back and like, we didn't think about it in that way. Perhaps you can justify, why do you say it's a beautiful flower? Maybe it just captures it. It actually correlates with the colors of the office. No, you're not lying. Here is about giving feedback. And here's why many people say salespeople won't go to heaven. It's not that you are lying. In communication, you have to find one small truth and that exaggerate its truthfulness, if I may. What you're doing is exaggerating what is already there. Okay. For example, the lady is fair in complexion. You can see that. Say you are fair in complexion. Here's something that perhaps maybe you can use. You could say something like this. This is not lying. When God created, when he was creating the creation, after every creation, he would say, it is good. So if I say, you are so beautifully created that when God finished creating you, he said it is good. Have I lied? So what have I just done there? He said that to everybody. But I've just fixed that on you and draw out and exaggerated to mean or to show the impression that he only said it when he created you. But that's not really entirely true. But it's not false because he said it is good. So as a communicator, you're not finding ways to lie. No, you're finding ways to exaggerate the truth. For example, right now, I don't know if you know it, Barbara Banda just won the BBC award as the woman of the footballer of the year. And there are some people in Europe who are saying she's not a woman, she's a man. And they are saying that's the reason why there was a year she was not allowed to play for the AFCON. Okay? If I used to work for FAS, I would then make a video, a documentary of Barbara growing up as a kid and show how that Barbara grew up as a girl. She's a girl, and she grew up as a young girl playing football up until where she is now. To dismiss all those accusations. Have I lied? I've just used the opportunity to expand the truth. What are the people in Europe doing? The fact that Barbara Banda missed that one AFCON, they are using that same thing to say that's the reason why she couldn't be allowed to play, because she's a man. Yeah, and it's a big story right now. And someone, in fact, I saw someone under some white woman who was giving an answer, and I saw someone comment and say, but why can't Zambia make a video to show Barbara Banda growing as a kid? That video is not yet here. Communication. It's like how people, when they come to Victoria Falls, you are more likely to see a video of a foreign tourist about Victoria Falls than a local person who stays in Livingstone. Communication. So what you're doing is you're picking out one thing and broadcast it. That's what communication is. So that creates psychological impact. But of course you have to choose the proper way, and I will show you how. Number 3, you have to use analogies. Earlier on I said that some people, when you're talking to them, they would like you to sit on their desk and they'll be drawing things on the paper. Like, so, imagine if this was like, for example, if you are talking about, for example, let me use like a villager who's very good at building, but they're not good at like putting down, like, you know, the way the architects would do it, drawing, measuring what. Sometimes they can actually draw for you on the ground. Like, okay, what you're trying to say, I can see. So you mean this is the house, for example, and then you mean there'll be a door here, and then here there'll be a window, then there'll be. So they're using that as an analogy to explain what they're trying to talk about to you. And a physical clock can represent, for example, time constraints during project discussions and emphasizing agents. You can use a physical clock to talk about that we need this thing to be done on time. If you're talking about building a house, you can use a physical drawing. It doesn't have to be a perfect drawing, but it captures an analogy to print to you a picture on how the house that you're trying to build would look like. Of course, number 4 is you use the props to frame the narrative, like the Barbara Banda narrative. We could use the prop of her growing up as a kid. There are people that have seen Barbara Banda's videos when she was younger. They say, this girl she's a girl. She's I mean, come on. But Europe doesn't know that. But what would we do as Zambia to frame that narrative? We capture Barbara Banda growing up as a kid, interview her parents, how do they feel? In fact, I speak on relationships. Recently, yes, on Saturday, I was on ZNBC talking about relationships. I had an interview there. There's a favorite scripture that I like to quote whenever I'm talking about relationships, and it is to be found in the book of Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs. The scripture says, and I quote, we have a little sister, and I'm sure all of us are elderly people here. We have a little sister who has got no breasts. What are we going to do on the day that she'll be spoken for? In essence, the brothers were wondering, what are we going to do on the day that someone is going to ask for a hand in marriage? Because she's growing, but she has no breasts. And I feel like Barbara suffers the same consequence. Why don't we interview the parents? How did you feel like, your young girl was growing and yet she didn't have the normal, outburst like their other friends? Let them experience, share that experience. And in sharing that experience, it is framing the narrative that she's a man. And by so doing, we engage the naysayers and the doubters that want to downplay the fact that she's good. Yes, she might have higher testosterone levels, but she's still a lady. Let her play. She might even win FIFA Woman of the Year award as well. But if the European guys have already started framing the conversation, she's not a lady, she's a man. That's why she was not allowed to play in the AFCON. And then you can ask, okay, which other AFCON was she not allowed to play in if she's a man? There's just one of them. And of course, that one, it is even very controversial how she was not allowed to play. Because there were other, and I'm using this very lightly, there are other male-looking women that were playing in that same AFCON. So, but what they did was to frame the narrative and make the world believe that award she doesn't deserve it. They should have given it to some American who has breasts, or some European lady who's physically seen as a woman. But Barbara Banda is a woman. But if we can use a video of Barbara Banda growing up, we can frame the narrative. And as we do that, we integrate props into our storytelling. People buy into stories. Volvo and Jaguar. People bought the cars based on the story that both companies were putting up. This one puts up family, preserving the norms of husband, wife, and children. The other one was telling a story as well of minority, everybody is inclusive, like is included, we are practicing inclusiveness and whatnot. One of them lost the majority, and we know who. Number 5, you have to integrate these props naturally. Like you don't, of course, in the beginning, you need to practice, but as you keep talking, some of these things need to come naturally. For example, I was asked on ZNBC on Saturday, what do you think about, because we're talking about the dangers of cohabiting. So what do you think about what's going on? Like, why is that many more young people now are cohabiting than, because I was a young person, there was an elderly person in his 50s, 60s, and then there was a pastor. So I was speaking from the young people's perspective. And then I said, to answer that question, I said, I think, to be fair, when we were growing up, they used to tell us the beautiful ones are not yet born. And then I said, I would like to confirm that those people were born. They are here. We live with them. And as a result, there's a lot of options of the beautiful ones who are being told are not yet born and have since been born. And as a result, it's very hard, if you are not well disciplined as a young man, to avoid the temptation of cohabiting, because there are too many of them. And it's not that they don't like us, they like us. And we also like them. So, why can't we stay with them and we have no commitment? As and when we decide to break up, we can break up. What I was doing was to integrate the conversation naturally into answering the question. Because an elder person would say, but in our time, it was unheard of. But chief, it was unheard of because you are living in a village and there were only, give or take, 20 women. And out of the 20, there was only one beautiful one. But now, bring 5 here, all the 5 will be beautiful. Because of what they eat, what they bath in. Like, there's beauty that you can tell. If this person didn't have money, they would not look as beautiful as they do. And people now have more resources and have more finances and more ways. For example, now, if you don't want to look dark, you can brighten yourself to look brighter. If you don't like the kind of hair that you have, you can change it. Buy new ones. For the guys, if you don't like in fact, these days, you can even change your teeth to put new ones.
Really?
Yes. So
that's a prop.
so there are all those things that people can now do. There's laser what, there's what. You can, like, there's a lot of things going on. And now you are a young man and you have all these options. You are more likely to fall prey into the dangers of cohabiting than 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I integrated that naturally. And of course, the other thing is, you have to give on-spot scenarios, and of course, I'll ask some of you to participate. Like, for example, here where we are, there are a lot of things on our desks, and you can use a lot of things here within, like on-spot, what we have here, to make an impact. So, I have this basket with me here. I would like to ask 2 volunteers, 1 lady and 1 gentleman. You pick one thing from the basket and give a speech, just like 30 seconds, and use what you're going to pick from here as a prop. Volunteers, 1 lady and 1 gentleman. If there will be no volunteers, we'll pick, because everyone has to participate. So you better volunteer now or get picked. So if you come first, you pick something better. No. Yeah, so if you pick something, like if you come here earlier, you pick something better to use compared to if you are the last one to come through. Anyone? Okay, so we're going to have her, and then we're going to have him. So, and lady, you can come to the stage. So you pick one thing, just briefly. You pick one thing, and then you say something and use that as a relevant prop. Okay, we're going to start with the gentleman. Yes. Yes. I'll explain.
The stage is hot, huh?
Yeah.
And you're only coolant, and the stage is hot.
Yes. So this is coolant accounting that's used to cool down the engines of vehicles. So basically, when the engine is running, there is heat that is being built inside the engine, and there's a path through the engine which this liquid goes through in order for it to cool the engine. Thank you.
Okay. That was brave of you, sir. Thank you. The lady.
Chocolate. As usual.
Okay, back then when I was growing up, I used to watch videos of people wearing makeup and just beautifying themselves, and I got that inspo from that. And as I was growing up, I was attempting to do makeup myself and all. Though at that point when I was in my 10 to 15 age, I was not allowed to wear makeup, but I could attempt and all. And through trying to practicing how to do makeup and all, I learned to say, okay, I can have a component of building my talent through doing makeup. Thank you.
Okay. Who do you think did better?
Those who want to volunteer.
Oh, you must do both.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you answer.
Coming from the society where we were growing up with elders, they were telling us that life begins at 40. But coming across to this book by Chivamba Kanyama, it was so interesting finding that confidence is built because of not being in the head, which I was getting from my elders. Life begins in yourself by the ability of knowing what you should do. And this book has built me, and it has given me that energy that life is all your confidence. This is the book that has built my life. Thank you.
Okay, so point of correction, this is not by Chua This is my book, but Chua Makanyama did the you can pass it on. Okay. Chua Makanyama did the forward, but that's my book. I wrote it, should have been 2017 or so, or launched it in 2017. I used to look different then. I used to cut all my hair. I was bored. Yeah, I'm bored. Yeah. Pardon? Oh, okay, yeah. So the book's title is Life Doesn't Begin at 40. Who do you think did better between among the three? Okay, Elizabeth. Okay, anyone else? Who? Sam? Elizabeth. Okay, Sam. Anyone else? Sam?
Richard.
Richard. Who's Richard? Okay. Any other vote for Richard? So she has 3. He has 1. Oh, so the rest of us, we think him? Oh, we don't? We're like, I don't really know.
Just different.
Pardon?
I think she did better.
She did better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here's why I think she did better. When she picked the probe, she didn't immediately start addressing the probe. She says, growing up, I used to and she gave that experience of growing up, and then she kept when referring to the probe, she kept on referring to how that she could then use her talent using makeup to make money and whatnot. Of course, she could have done much better than that. And I feel like he also sort of, I think while he was seated there, he calculated what he wanted to say. which was good to do. So he came up and picked up the conversation from how that the book which he picked up And the fact that he started from the fact that growing up with elders, they used to tell him that life begins at 40. There was even a song that was talking about life begins at 40. Yes.
No.
It's for the grace of God, sir, that we are here.
The grace is sufficient.
The grace is sufficient indeed. So, the fact that he started with the fact that elders, I mean, many people used to tell us that, wait, like, when you get to a certain age, you can start doing some of these things. For example, I like to give an example that when we were growing up, they used to tell us, don't you ever look at a woman, just concentrate on school, get a job, and then when you get a job, then later on, maybe that's when you can start concentrating on women. But then after we finished school, and then, there was no one coming at home, and then they started asking us, you're not seeing anyone? But they told us, don't focus on the ladies. When we came to the university, we were being told, look, university could be arguably the best place to find your life partner. Because you are all meeting at this particular space and whatnot. Once you finish and you start making money and you look different, even the people that didn't like you, they'll be like, I knew he was onto something. But meanwhile, if they had met you earlier, they would have never even looked your direction. So there are all these things, and then when you want to counter-argue that, you use a prop sort of emphasize. So yes, that was a good way to integrate a prop into what the elders used to tell us, and then what you have come to know now. I would have preferred if you say, they used to tell us life begins at 40, but I found out that, life doesn't begin at 40. And it's a statement I learned from this book called Life Doesn't Begin at 40 by Shiva Bakanyama. No, it's not. Just to make a point.
Yeah.
So that's how you have integrated it. The coolant. You had a good opportunity to talk about the coolant. For example, you could have talked about how that when they're building houses, they put air cons. Why do they put air cons? Because sometimes it becomes hot. And when it becomes hot, what do you need to do? Just press a button and there's a cool, breezy air that comes in to sort of like cool and bless your soul, if I may. But for the cars, that thing is called a coolant. And then you go on to explain. I think you have extensive knowledge about what happens to the engine. But the integration into showing what this coolant does was a bit delayed. So I preferred that you would have integrated with the story of what happens when they're building cars, why do we wear certain things in summer, why do we wear certain things in winter and whatnot. And then for the car, you would have talked about how that this is a very necessary thing. And you could have even cracked a joke, say, this is not cooking oil. This is not even water. This is coolant. Thank you. You could have then integrated it in like that. So, do I still think cohabiting is bad? Yes. Here are the ways. So, I talked about the national development as well as at a personal level. Number one, in national development, I did population studies at the University of Zambia as my undergraduate degree. And there was a topic that we looked at, marital status versus development. So, we all know that population growth is a big deal if you want to progress as a nation. The more people you have, the more products that you can sell, the more money that you can make. People that are cohabiting are less likely to have kids than people that have been formally married. And as a result, you could have 20 million people cohabiting and you will not have 20 million kids as a result of that. Versus, when you have people that are married, everyone wants to marry, even if they would like to delay the process on when they'll have the kid, they want to marry and have the kid, hence the Volvo advert. So I feel the people that are cohabiting, they are robbing the economy of the economic energy that they could produce by bringing in kids to the world to grow our population. And here's the reason. One of the reasons why Nigeria, like everyone who's like, if a musician comes from Nigeria and is successful, like they'll blow everywhere in Africa, is because there are a lot of Nigerians. If you have 1% of the Nigerians stream your song and 1% of the Zambians stream your song, the 1% in Nigeria is bigger than the 1% in, and that it is arguable, and I'm using this as, these are arguable. That's the reason why the European countries are trying to advocate for Africans to practice more of child control measures so that we don't increase in numbers. And I can support that with the crisis that is going on in Japan. They don't have enough young people. Why? Because many women in Japan don't want to get married. And even when they do get married, they don't want to have kids. And as a result, there's a crisis right now. Because there are a lot of the older people who might die anyway by consequence of aging. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to give incentives to people that want to marry and have kids. Or even if you don't want to marry, at least have kids. So that they can sustain their population. That's number one. Number two, at a personal level, and I'm saying this as respectful as possible, it's very difficult to find a man to marry you as a lady if you have a child with another man. It's extremely hard, and it presses very psychological effects on your mental health and on your well-being. Why? Because there are not many men that would want to have a well-arranged marriage while you have a kid or kids with someone else. And of course, these things happen, people cohabit, and then they have kids, but they're not formally married. And even if you separate, as a lady, you don't get anything because you're not legally married. So each one gets whatever they came into the world with. Notice that up that stage, we haven't even talked about religion. So there are two types of marriages in Zambia. There's legal, which is government, and there's customary, which is traditional. Like you don't even need to sign, any paper binding you like your husband and wife. But you can, when you pay your lobola and whatnot, they can do whatever they do, bring the lady in the night and whatnot. That's official, a marriage. But cohabiting splits that apart. And now, here's another reality. In 2017, there was a study that was done in America of the people that were in prisons. And when they were asking their background, they found out that most of the people that were in prisons, they grew up from broken backgrounds, either growing up with their mother alone or growing up with their father alone. So the fact that you have the absence of either of the party, it also wrecks the communities. In communities where there is high crime rate, high poverty rates, in those communities, you find that most of those communities are headed by single-headed households. And that's the reason why I think cohabiting is really dangerous.